What's up, guys? This is going to be a bit of a reflection video and giving my perspective as a cooked computer science student. This video was inspired by my man Henny117. He made a similar video and inspired me to do the same. So my journey begins around January of 2022. That's when I made the decision to learn how to code. At that time, I got caught up in the wave, and I'm sure a bunch of us did if you're watching this video. I got caught up in the wave of learning to code. My YouTube was flooded with videos upon videos of people claiming to have learned to code in 3 to 6 months and got a high six-figure salary working at Google or Amazon or one of those FAANG companies. So naturally, I was intrigued. At that time, I was working at a warehouse as a shipper receiver, and the work was just unfulfilling. I knew I needed a change. I dropped out of university previous to that, and I just knew that was just a dead end, and it wasn't where I wanted to be. So I figured, you know what, why not teach myself how to code? In high school, I thought coding was cool, but I never really gave it much thought. Kind of ended there. After kind of stumbling around in the dark, I came across the Odin Project, and I think that's where rubber really met the road. The Odin Project was a great resource. It taught me the basics of web development, a little bit of Linux stuff too. What I liked about the Odin Project was that it was structured. It gave a clear path. Each module that you do kind of stacked on top of each other. So with that said, I did the Odin Project. Took maybe like 7 months. Put those projects that I made from the Odin Project on my resume and started applying for jobs. Eventually, I ended up landing a internship at this consulting company. I worked there for 8 months, got a bunch of experience, met a bunch of engineers. It was just great being a part of, a team building software. Prior to that point, it was just me in my room building small web apps. So it really opened my eyes to the sheer scale of these projects that, companies are working on. I worked at this consulting company for about 8 months, from September 2022 to May of 2023. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to convert full time. So once I finished my internship, I was left with a choice. I figured I could take my 8 months of experience and try and land a full-time gig, or I could go to school and kind of bet it all on getting a co-op using school resources. So I took the school route. Now, school was great. It helped me fill in the gaps that I missed while I was self-teaching. And through school, I was able to land a 8-month internship, which kind of brings me to where I am today. I'm finishing up my 8-month internship at a software company in the telecommunication industry. What they do is they allow devices to interact with 5G networks. Basically, the user of the device will call a simple endpoint called a northbound API, and those northbounds travel through a bunch of layers and get split into what we call southbound APIs until it reaches the 5G network and brings your resources back up. Working at this place was amazing. I worked with so many cracked out engineers, man. And I thought the consulting company opened up my eyes, but this was like life-changing. I got a bunch of experience. I worked on real projects that customers use, and I even developed a tool that developers use still in the office today. So that was great. But now that I'm at the end of my internship, about to return to school, I feel a little bit uneasy and less sure than I did before. AI and automation and the future of work in the tech industry is just rapidly changing, and it seems as though it's leaving new grads and CS students like myself behind. The path that I once thought of as secure and viable is seeming a little less so now, and it's just a big question mark on the future of work in the tech industry, especially for juniors. On one hand, I can see from an employer's perspective how it could be risky to hire a junior. You pay them all this money up front, and you don't know if you'll get a return on your investment, or if you do, it'll take at least 8 months to a year. Juniors are fresh. They have no experience or little to no experience. They have no clue about the company product or processes, and it just takes them some time to get up to speed and to be able to make meaningful contributions to the team. Even though this is the case, I don't think that juniors should be barred from the industry completely. You know, you can scroll on LinkedIn or any other job board and find a bunch of applications for entry-level jobs that require 3 to 5 years experience, which doesn't really line up for a new grad, even if they got internships. Not to mention, those same job postings have like 150 applicants within the first 10 minutes of the posting being available. And on top of that, Reddit is filled with posts of students or juniors documenting their experience in this brutal job market. Some have even been employed for years after graduation, which blows my mind. But despite all of this doom and gloom, my goal heading into my final year of school is just to do everything that I can to put myself in a more advantageous position. Really go hard and maximize, my network and put an emphasis on building and learning things outside of school. All this in an attempt to maximize my career outlook post-graduation. It might be naive of me to remain optimistic in such a brutal job market, but what's the alternative? Pessimism? Pessimism hasn't helped out anybody, man. It's better to be, delusional and optimistic about these things than to just have a perpetual dark cloud floating over my head. These are just my thoughts. Take it with a grain of salt. I mean, I am just a guy in his room talking to a camera, right? So thanks for tuning in. Much love. Talk to y'all later.